Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, Master's in Counseling Psychology, professional astrologer, psychic, healer, and yogi. In this episode, I'm going to discuss the astrology of frantic and frenetic February 2026. It's a doozy, probably one of the craziest months of the year. And this is part one. We're doing a new format now. We're going to talk about the update in general about the astrology every month, and then we'll follow it up with a second episode where I give you the forecast for each zodiac sign. And so there'll be much more in-depth forecast and with your lucky days for every month. So stay tuned for part two. Welcome to Frenetic and Frantic February 2026. The astrology is wacky and wild. You're going to want to listen up to hear how you might be affected by this energy and what are the key dates when transits will happen, when there will be planetary activity that could impact us all. It's a February fest of Aquarian love. And not just because of Valentine's Day. We inaugurate the month with 5 planets in Aquarius, including Venus, the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Pluto pulsing through the sign of the future. We are ignited by the Aquarian amplified frequencies in early February, triggering new awarenesses, making reconnections in our brain and social circle, and manifesting our brighter future. So ride these wild waves in early February that will probably stir up collective unrest as well. Neptune shifted into Aries on 12626 into 2039, and Saturn eases into Aries during February on February 13th, right after Uranus turns direct on February 3rd. We are bracing for outer planet changing of the guard in the coming months when Uranus leaves Taurus at the end of April and jolts into Gemini. Jupiter jumps into Leo in late June, and the nodes of the moon pivot into the Aquarius-Leo axis out of the Pisces-Virgo axis in July. So here we are. February is a pivotal month with these changes happening from the outer planets. So the second big change would be Uranus turning direct, and then Saturn goes into Aries on the 13th of February. So here are the keynotes for February. And remember, in part 2 of the February Astro Update, I will give sun sign predictions for each zodiac sign as well as your lucky days. So part 2 will be released in about a day or two after part 1. So here we are, part 1, February Astro Update. Here are the important dates. Write them down. February 1st, we have the Leo full moon kicking off this February fun fest, frenetic, fiery, frolicking, free-for-all. February 1st, Leo full moon. On February 3rd, Uranus transits direct, going out of retrograde into Taurus, direct in Taurus. On the 6th of February, Mercury transits into Pisces. From February 10th through March 6th, Venus transits into Pisces. On February 13th, Saturn transits into Aries until April 2038. The big news of the month is on February 17th, it's the Aquarius new moon solar eclipse, kicking off the year of the horse, Lunar New Year. The next day, on February 18th, the sun enters Pisces. And from February 26th through March 20th, Mercury retrogrades in Pisces. So there's a little bit of astro fun for everyone. February flies in on an Aquarius wave of lightning, enhanced by a potent full moon in Leo, lighting up the night skies on February 1st. Things are rising to the surface as Uranus darts forward in Taurus, bringing shocks and surprises. Meanwhile, the influx of Aquarian energies with the Sun, Pluto, and Mercury, Venus, and Mars shine the light on the future and deliver flashes of inspiration and enlightenment. Ask to kindly illuminate my intellect, which is what Mercury in Aquarius can do for you if you are patient enough to receive the showering down of divine intelligence. The revolutionary energies are rising, and the people are rising up against the power elite. So early February is full-on Aquarius energy, including innovation, networking, community, future orientation, and a push for personal and collective authenticity. During this time, several inner planets are interacting, as I mentioned, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Sun. They're connecting with powerful Pluto, creating a pressure cooker leading into the eclipse on the 17th of February. So Mercury had entered Aquarius back on January 20th, 2026. And when Mercury moves through Aquarius, the mind is moving towards innovation, inventions, making plans, futuristic thinking, looking at our tribe that we vibe with. And then Mercury will leave Aquarius and go into Pisces early on in February, on February 6, 2026. And when Mercury exits Aquarius and enters Pisces, it's a transition from that sharp thinking, conceptual, visionary, spontaneous, to more imaginative, intuitive, and emotional communication. So we'll see that shift early on. And then the big news is that Mercury will also be retrograding at the end of the month in the sign Pisces. More on that in this episode. Venus is in Aquarius, where she went into on January 17th through February 10th, emphasizing unconditional love, anything goes, friendship in relationship, freedom in all connections, and connection with like-minded people, intellectual, social, and feel good because of what you're conversing about. Aquarius is looking for stimulation in different places than some of the other Venusian sun signs would. So then Venus will leave on February 10th, go into romantic Pisces for the rest of the month, and that's when things get cuddly cozy.
Ooh
and
la la!
romances bloom. Mars is in Aquarius from January 23rd through March 2nd, 2026. So as Mars moves through Aquarius in early February, it's going to bring assertive action focused on group projects, activism, innovation, social strategies. It also makes for dynamic connections with other people. And Mars is going to connect with all those other inner planets, maybe causing a little rebellion, stirring up change, inciting action. And Mars is going to be there for about 5.5 weeks. So we can look forward to more innovation, unconventional action, and intellectual assertiveness. Yeah, we might actually hear from the smart people and not the dummies so much. That would be enlightening if we could get people who really are plugged in on an intelligence level to tell us what's happening. The focus with Mars in Aquarius will be on group goals, activism, and future-focused projects. There can be some energetic breakthroughs in technology, networks, and communities. The sun is also in Aquarius until about February 18th, igniting the overall theme of all these planets in Aquarius, including bringing fresh perspectives, humanitarian values, and pushing beyond the outdated norms and bringing in some new inspiration and more unconventionality. February's full moon, known as the snow moon, blasts in on February 1st, kicking off a month of frenetic energies. Get your groove on and try something new and different. Anything goes, breakthroughs abound. Offering your gifts to the collective is one way to shift the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the peace you want to bring into the world. This is a very social Leo full moon on February 1st. So get out there and connect. Our physical bodies are being fine-tuned to handle the heightened electromagnetic frequencies of these new Aquarian energies pulsing into the planet. The keynote of this full moon in Leo is the individual's contribution to shifting group consciousness. We are no longer islands alone, watching the drama of our collective reality unfold into chaos. The Leo-Aquarius polarity deals with the balance between all that is personal, Leo, and all that is impersonal, Aquarius. The energy of the Leo moon is creative self-expression and pleasure and romance, while the Aquarius sun rules the group, more impersonal friendships, perhaps some objectivity and detachment. This full moon urges us to strike a balance between romance and friendship and between expressing ourselves in personal and impersonal ways. Leo in astrology is the significator of kings and those in power, while Aquarius rules the people or populace. Here it is, the marker of contention rising between people and the leaders. We will see many standing up to take on the edicts and dictates of those in power. Aquarius rules freedom, liberty, and justice for all, while Leo favors the rulers, the kings, the power elite, and those people who have money, so much money it puts them into a whole 1% category. So here we go. Stand up, stand up, stand up for your rights. This Leo full moon occurs at 13 degrees Leo. The Sabian symbol for 13 degrees Leo from Dane Rudar's An Astrological Mandala is, quote, an old sea captain rocking himself on the porch of his cottage. The keynote is the quieted mind's recollections of crisis and joys long past. The sea captain has steered the ship of his ego consciousness through seas and storms, maintaining the integrity of his individual selfhood while in close contact with the collective unconscious. Unquote. Also from An Astrological Mandala, quote, the swing of the child consciousness has now become the rocking chair, from which one can contemplate the past as well as present, scenes moving as waves roll over the shore. Peace at last. Unquote. That old sea captain doesn't sound like any old men in power that we know. But maybe it describes the situation of people remembering the good old days when we had beneficial men as our leaders who cared about the future and wanted to leave a peaceful, healthy, and wealthy legacy. Or we are moving toward that despite outward appearances to the contrary. Then, on February 13th, 2026, Saturn enters Aries, where it will be until April 12th, 2028. Saturn moves into Aries, fueling personal responsibility, discipline, and structured action. This transit urges you to define and commit to your identity, goals, and long-term ambitions with more confidence and seriousness. don't worry, you have a couple years to do it. So for the next few years, Saturn, as Lord of Karma, brings up the repercussions and residual of past actions for better or for worse. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, marking a new cycle, so the karmic retributions will come fast and furiously to be burnt through. Aries is ruled by Mars, giving courage, impulsiveness, and pioneering spirit. The interaction of Saturn and Aries will be an interesting dynamic as Saturn's stabilizing force, as the wise old man, tempers Aries, that young, impetuous upstart's impulsive and perhaps rash actions. This will be a balancing act between bold action and measured responsibility. On a global or broader level, Saturn and Aries ignites shifts in leadership, innovation, and governance. We will truly see a changing of the guard as the old order of global leadership dismantles, steps down, or is taken out, and the new wave of hopefully inspired stewardship and visionary leaders of countries step up. The overseers of government and management of nations will change as new authorities come into power, for better or worse, including the rise of dictatorship and control. And then, outside of governments, there will be so many innovative developments, including inventions and other ways to make life easier and faster. Aries is a fast sign and moves quickly. Aries' trailblazing energy, coupled with Saturn's structural influence, could drive advancements in technology, bold political reforms, and economic restructuring. Tensions will surely arise as Aries' assertiveness and martial tendencies clash with Saturn's demand for discipline. This period will emphasize resilience and adaptability. Welcome to 2026. The first eclipse of 2026 occurs on February 17th with a new moon in Aquarius, a solar eclipse. Ruh-roh! Here we go. It marks a new beginning in revolutionary Aquarian activities of the group, aligning over shared ideals and trying to get liberties back that have been restricted. So, very interesting. It is a new moon, but it occurs at the very last degree of Aquarius. So we see the clash of the past and present. Remember, Aquarius wants freedom at all costs. Liberty is their battle cry. America's sleeping giant populace has just woken up and is taking their country back in time for the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. Yeehaw! So to understand what is going on here, let's talk about solar eclipses. They do usher in new beginnings, but perhaps not right away. They are very packed with galactic and electromagnetic radiations. Sometimes around these eclipses, especially solar eclipses, we have a preponderance of solar flares, or there are sunspots on the actual sun in our galaxy that is affecting us here on Earth. So we could have power anomalies or weather disturbances. What solar eclipses do for people on the planet is that they shine light on what has been hidden from individuals or in collective society. The astrological phenomena that brings solar eclipses, or the astronomy of a solar eclipse, is when the moon lines up directly between the Earth and the sun. Solar eclipses will always be during a new moon, but in different signs. And here we are entering the first of the most recent astrological eclipses that feature the signs Aquarius and Leo. Astrologically, when the sun and moon are conjunct, as we say in astrology, they're in the same sign. So you're going to see an activation of that sign in your chart. The solar eclipse on February 17th occurs in the sun sign Aquarius. So you need to contact your astrologer. Contact me at jilljarneedastrology.com to find out where Aquarius falls in your personal chart and what house does it roll. Do you have any planets near the late degrees of Aquarius? Or even to see on the big level, what is the new beginning that's going to be going on for our society? The moon can block out the sun's light at a solar eclipse, distorting our sense of reality. So do not make any big decisions at a solar or lunar eclipse, as your clarity will be obscured, just like the sun or moon being obscured. And there can also be confusion. Eclipses clean the slate, whether the slate is your mind, your experiences, relationships, and other manifestations. Eclipses take a few months to really show what they were about, but they can immediately be impacting situations, the collective, and individuals. So it's probably a good idea to wait a few days or even weeks before starting the new path as the new moon is being eclipsed. That's a good way to use the energy. Sometimes the solar eclipse opens up opportunities following a new directive to take in our life. On a collective level, solar eclipses are a very interesting time to see what shows up in the media. Lots of secrets are revealed and people will be exposed. Hi there, this is Jill Jardine, host of Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine Podcasts. I just wanted to let my listeners know that I published a book, Sacred Sound Formulas to Awaken the Modern Mind. It's available at Amazon and through my new website, JillJardine.com. Check it out. So the new moon solar eclipse on February 17, 2026 will initiate fresh starts in social groups, collaborations, collective endeavors, technology, humanitarian efforts, and future life direction for ourselves personally and collectively. So it's exciting, but as I said, it's an eclipse. We have to wait maybe a couple weeks until that lunar eclipse on March 3rd is over to really get an understanding of the energy of this annular solar eclipse. So we can look at things are going to shift. And this especially is how you connect with others, share ideas, personal friendships, organizational roles. And it's a reset, clearing old patterns, increasing outreach. The other exciting thing about this eclipse and new moon, that it occurs at the 29th degree of Aquarius, considered the anaretic degree. And the Sabian symbol for this solar eclipse and new moon at the anaretic degree is, quote, a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. So this is very powerful. It speaks to metamorphosis, liberation, and the moment of emergence after a long gestation. So look at your life. What has been forming quietly? And even in the collective, what has been quietly in the background, sometimes not being tracked by the media, that now reaches a point where it must express itself outward? So we've talked about how in 2025, a lot of the new moons were occurring in the final degrees of a sign. And here we have that same thing. The anaretic final degree of Aquarius, a sense of culmination, even though it is a new moon, an urgency to complete. And then the next day we go into the sign Pisces. So this is the threshold between mental vision of Aquarius and Piscean spiritual dissolution. And remember, the two outer planets, Neptune, have just left the building of Pisces, and a few days before this new moon, Saturn has slipped out of Pisces into Aries. So it really is that old structures can no longer contain what's coming into form. A lot has been incubating beneath the surface. The form will change, but the essence remains. Think of a butterfly. It's in the cocoon. So we're all cocooning, and this is the year we become the butterflies, which means liberation and authenticity, the release from confinement, conditioning, or limitations, the freedom to express your true nature. Yeehaw! There's no turning back to the old form. However, this is key because this indicates the timing. So it's not that we're all going to become our butterflies here in February. No. Solar eclipses take about 3 months for the energy to ripen. So with the gestation, with the cocooning, with the butterfly being ready to emerge, we need to remember transformation can't be rushed. The butterfly emerges only when the time is right. If we force emergence, it can weaken the wings and we won't be able to fly. So we need to trust in natural timing. And Aquarius is a higher vibratory sign, says this Aquarian, but this is more about becoming the embodied change. It's not just about thinking or spouting ideas or ideals. It's about making it a living reality. Be the future self that you want to become. And so this is a window to work on it, specifically from the eclipse, the rest of February, while we're in Pisces, which is a very cocooning sign. Pisces likes to just kind of go within and connect to spirit. So we'll have that opportunity at the end of February. Aquarius, at this energetic degree, is completing its evolutionary task before consciousness melts into Pisces' universal field. So this is pretty intense stuff. And it's going to happen externally as well as internally. So sometimes when an eclipse comes, such as a solar eclipse, especially at the ultimate degree, there's going to be fate involved, fate and destiny, and shifts. People's life directions can change rapidly. You can be seen in a new way or finally allow yourself to be. It is exhilarating and vulnerable at the same time, like new wings meeting air for the first time. There's shadow that will come forth, though, because it is an eclipse. So any fear of exposure or being seen, some people may not want to leave the safety of the chrysalis because there's the discomfort of growth. Remember, freedom requires risks. But stagnation and staying where you are is no longer an option. Powerful, powerful time. The degree 29 Aquarius reminds us that true evolution is irreversible. Once the butterfly emerges, it cannot return to the chrysalis. And let's throw another level of intensity into the mix. This solar eclipse also marks Chinese New Year on February 17, 2026, ushering in the year of the fire horse, a rare and intensely energetic year occurring only once every 60 years. So those born in 1966 are having their Lunar New Year, the exact one they came in on a soul level. So think about that, you 1966ers. Which was a pivotal year in astrology. It's when we had a conjunction of Uranus and Pluto, which defined the beginning of the 60s and then the end of the 60s, the beginning, like I like to say, the Beach Boys, and the wholesome 60s, cars in a garage, a house in the suburbs, a chicken in the pot, to the late 60s, rock and roll, baby, Vietnam War, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, the acid test, psychedelics. It all was happening. So 1966, enjoy your year of the fire horse. And then there are those born in the previous years of the horse in 1978, 1990, 2002, and 2014. But a fire horse, interestingly enough, just after Neptune went into Aries fire sign, Saturn went into Aries fire sign, and fire is yang in Chinese medicine, which is external. And then the horse is bold, independent, fast-moving energy, dynamic action. So we're going to see people making decisive choices, taking action. It helps with innovation and momentum. We need to be balanced, though, to avoid burnout amid high activity. This year favors visible leadership, creative risk-taking, and visible follow-through, but also asks you to maintain your stamina and stay grounded, as I've said in previous podcasts. So the 2 weeks between February 17th, which is the solar eclipse, and March 3rd, the lunar eclipse, full moon in Virgo, this year are eclipse. Generally, this is the time when we initiate our Lunar New Year. So it's a good time to get your house in order, clean the house prior to February 17th, and then during those 2 weeks, set out fresh fruits, including pineapple, oranges, and apples, to bring in more health and wealth in this year of the fire horse. On February 18th, right after the rockin' eclipse energies, the sun silently slips into Pisces to calm everything the down. Sensitivities are heightened, and the world out there may seem too harsh to deal with. Go within and connect to the upper luminous spheres where all is well. Connect to your spiritual guides. And I'll be having a podcast to help you do that. So stay tuned. This is an excellent time to connect with the spiritual realms and inner worlds. Waves of emotion flow in, some nice, some nasty. We may feel like escaping from reality as we cringe over the collective conundrums. Spend time to create. We need to be gentle with ourselves and make time to go within. We must honor any sensitivities that come up without allowing ourselves to be pulled down into the shadow or darkness. And to help us is Mercury going retrograde in Pisces on February 23rd until March 20th, the Aries equinox. So we have all that Piscean time to enhance these themes of going within and honoring your sensitivity and catching up on some much needed rest as well. So this Mercury retrograde period is excellent for a reflection, revision, creative thinking, and reevaluating dreams. But don't sign any of those new contracts or make big decisions. Expect communication delays, rediscoveries, or things coming to the surface that might be related to relationships and other life priorities. So use the Mercury retrograde at the end of February to really know thyself, as was written in the Hermetic temples. I hope you enjoyed this episode on the February 2026 astrology. Buckle up, Buttercup, and stay tuned for how the astrology of February 2026 will impact your zodiac sign in February Astrology Part 2. Remember to download, share, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine signing out, sending Aquarian waves and currents of enlightenment and healing through the quantum field. Stop.